Back to the Technology Show.
It is the Technology Show where we translate geek into regular speak. I wish I was sitting in Barcelona this week, or at least last week. It's actually, I get sad every time at this time of the year because I've missed CES in January, and I've now just missed Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And that is a show that I love. I've been there a few times. As someone who identifies as a mobilist, it's like going to Mecca for me. So I probably say this on every show. If I had to look back or listen back to some of the old shows, I'm like, next year I'm going, next year I'm going. There's always a reason why I'm not going. In fact, I'm in the middle of moving houses at the moment. So the only place I'm going is crazy. Anyway, let's pretend that we're in Barcelona. Just because I wasn't there doesn't mean I can't talk about the awesome stuff. And you have to believe I did sit and watch all the keynotes that I wanted to. Look, I think before getting into, and this show's generally about the stuff that stood out for me. In the past years, I've kind of looked at some of the quirky stuff as well. I didn't really do that this year. Mobile's not really doing much. Now, I know that sounds weird, and we're talking about Mobile World Congress, but a phone's a phone, and I'm going to show you some examples, and they're bending phones, and we've got flips, and we've got folds, and all these other things. I don't know if I've got any slides on HMD, which is the company that owns Nokia. They've now gone back into making modular devices, things that clip on and clip off. Motorola's tried it, Motorola, they've tried it. There was someone else that tried it a while ago. It didn't work. I don't think it's going to work this time. But it's kind of almost like we're waiting for the next big thing to come, and where the focus seems to be is cameras. And I'm going to talk about a couple of devices that stood out. Well, let's get into it. So if I bring up my slides, got the wrong slides there. That's a great start. Where's the slides? Let's find some slides that we can quickly bring up and get them into the show. So while I'm waiting for my slides to upload, basically the show goes on every time this time of year, every year. Sorry. I was moaning about the fact that we're not seeing innovation. That's not to say that it isn't there, that the companies aren't showing stuff. And I'm going to show it to you now. I did find some really cool things. There we go. Got the right slides this time. At least you know the show's live, right? So the thing that really stood out for me was Samsung's foray into wearables. Now, that's not watches. I'm talking about the Ring. So if you're watching the show, you can see I've put a picture up of the Galaxy Ring. If you're listening to the show, there's not much I can tell you about it. Like Aura and the other players that are in the Ring space or the smart Ring space already, it's going to do what you would expect it to. It's going to monitor your sleep. It's going to monitor health, heart rate, things like that, movement. But I think what's cool about rings is, if you're married, you wear a wedding ring. A lot of people like to wear rings even if they're not married, but they don't want to wear a watch, or they don't want to wear a smartwatch, or they don't want to be tethered to a device that can make calls or send text or just basically interrupt, but they still want to be aware of what's going on in their lives insofar as their health. So the Ring and other wearables that don't have screens has always been something that's quite exciting. Samsung makes a habit of this when they go to Mobile World Congress. They always show off something that you can see but not touch. They did this with the first flip phones and fold phones as well. Like, they were there, but you couldn't play with them. And it's almost as if we don't actually know if it's going to work. And believe me, there was a couple of those. There's a brand, actually, I'm not even going to throw the brands under the bus. You can Google it. But there was a brand that actually had to take their phone off display because it wasn't working. Now, hopefully that person got fired. But you spend all this money, you go to the showcase for mobile, and then your device doesn't work. Anyway, back to the Ring. So I would wear something like this. Now, I'm going to assume it's going to only work with Android devices. And that's generally because Apple doesn't really play well with things that are not Apple. There are a couple of devices that connect with iPhones. I think, I stand corrected, but I'm pretty sure the Aura Ring does. But will Apple actually open up APIs in the ecosystem to the enemy, which is Samsung? It's yet to be seen. We have no idea of cost. We have no idea if it's coming out, even or it's just a concept. But from what I could see on the videos, it's got different colors as well. So you get like your gold and your silver and your gun medals. I think they could do well with it. And they're a big enough brand that they can actually throw something behind it. So the other wearables in the market are probably not feeling so comfortable at the moment. But anyway, let's move on. Now, I always like to talk about apps. And it was super cool to see that there was an app that actually won an award as well at CES a couple of months ago. And it's good to see that they were actually now at Mobile World Congress. Looks like a lot of interest. And the app's called WISP. So it's WHISPP. And it's designed for people that basically either have a lisp or a speech impediment, maybe people that have gone through some form of throat damage or windpipe damage. Speaking of which, I watched a show on Netflix about a doctor who does like windpipe surgery. He's just a super big con man. I think it's called like Under the Knife or Love Under the Knife. Or anyway, I digress. Back to the show. So yeah, basically what the app will do is either using your voice recording and then enhancing it, or you can choose someone else's voice and use that through AI to actually have a conversation with someone. So you're giving people that do have disabilities or limitations a voice back. They can even make a phone call through the Wisp app. Now, I'm not quite sure how that works if there's a delay, almost like a two-way radio. So basically, I would say something and then the AI would interpret it and enhance it. I'm not 100% sure how that works. But the point is that, here's people that have sat down, thought about people that really do have problems in the world. Not just speech impediments, but I said you might have been through a bad accident and lost your voice, or even worse, had a cancer or something like that. So super stoked to see that app developers were actually there at Mobile World Congress. And I must say, over the years, I have seen a couple of app developers there. Not always stand out, more aligned to the phone and hardware and enhancements as opposed to offering services like this. So, yeah, I don't know what the business model on Whisper is, but I think for anyone listening to the show or anyone that works with people that maybe have a disability, maybe people that are just shy. There's a lot of people that don't have a voice in the sense that they feel shy on the phone. Now they can actually talk through someone else's voice. So check it out, WISP, WHISPP. And yeah, now if you're watching the show, you'll see on the screen at the moment, I have a picture of I'm going to pronounce it as Xiaomi. Don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. It's the brand Xiaomi, Xiaomi. But the phone is the 14 Ultra. Now, this is not a phone. This is a camera that has a phone attached to it. Now, if you remember many years ago, Samsung came out with the Galaxy phone that had the same concept. It was kind of like a camera that it actually had an optical zoom on it. It was quite cumbersome though. It looked more like a camera with a flat back screen that you could then send your images and edit your images on it. I mean, it was an awesome device. I definitely covered on one of the shows. It might have actually been my show that when I was still living in South Africa, come to think of it. So we're talking about 8-9 years ago. Motorola did a deal with Hasselblad. They came out with a Hasselblad attachment. I mentioned attachments at the beginning of the show. That basically the phone was your lens, but your viewfinder, but you're using Hasselblad technology to take pictures. Again, didn't really take off. But what Xiaomi's done is they've actually made a phone that still functions as a phone, has a great battery, great screen, etc., etc. But they have packed an incredible camera into this phone. So they're using Leica technology. It's going to be pricey. I didn't get all the specs, but they were doing about apertures, and they were basically talking about an SLR inside a phone. Now, Samsung's Galaxy flagship, Apple's iPhone 15 Pro Max, they kind of the heavy hitters when it comes to photography and phones. I do think if this phone does come to market, because again, with Mobile World Congress, you never know, right? People can also just be showcasing stuff that we never see. But this phone really looked incredible. The pictures that they were putting up were amazing. So check it out, the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. But it doesn't stop there. Xiaomi also announced their first car. Now, it's weird because Apple's just announced that they're not going to make their car anymore. They've been working on a car for the last, I don't know, 10 years. Spent probably billions of dollars on it, and they've pulled the plug and they've redirected the staff that they didn't let go, they've redirected them into AR. But this is about Xiaomi. So the SU7, if you're watching, you can see it kind of looks like the BYD Seal. Maybe a little bit of Porsche type lines in there as well. They've definitely gone for that kind of look. Like, I think the electric Porsche is called the Taycan, something like that. I don't know. The inside looks beautiful, but 0 to 100 in under 3 seconds. So this is not just a phone on wheels, which is kind of what happens, or the way cars get described when they're made by technology companies. It also had a purported 400 and something mile range on its max battery. I don't know what the conversion of miles to kilometers are, but that's probably over 600 kilometers. So what I'm getting at, this is a Tesla competitor. I would assume it's going to come in less than Tesla price points. Very interesting to see if this does actually come to market. Given that, I just mentioned one of the other cars that is not going to come to market. But really good looking car, well positioned inside. I have, as I said, I'll put some pictures up there. If you're watching, you'll see from different angles. It looks like there's screens on the back seats, back of the front seats as well. So for the people sitting at the back, they've got screens, nice big screen up front. You would expect from an EV, right? Especially an EV made by a technology company. So I will watch the space, see what happens. Staying or going back to phones now. Excuse me. Honor is a brand that a lot of people in Australia and America probably don't know. It's actually made by Huawei. It's another brand. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And it was kind of always made as their budget phone. So when Huawei was a big contender, and I mean, there was a period in time when they were, I think, the second or the third biggest phone in the world, which is quite something. They made the Honor as their entry level phone, and then Honor kind of just went on a journey of its own and became something quite special. And this Honor Magic Pro, or Honor Magic 6 Pro, definitely lives up to that heritage. Now, again, I don't know if Australia or the States will see it. It's a Chinese phone. The country's stances on Chinese hardware is quite harsh. You might recall Huawei actually developed Harmony OS. It's their own operating system because Google wouldn't supply them Android anymore. So it was quite a big middle finger to the brand. And you know what? They're probably better for it. Harmony OS is a lovely operating system. I got to play with it a couple of years ago. It's got none of the bloatware that the other big brands have put on their Android. It's got the hardware built by Huawei, which are no slouches. But what makes the Magic 6 Pro mentionable is that it is a 180 megapixel camera setup with 100 times zoom. So this is a super camera phone. I mentioned now with the previous phone, with the Xiaomi phone, that was going to be a camera that had a phone to it. This is now a phone with a serious camera. But they also have added an eye tracking feature using the front camera. One of the demos that they did at the show is that they actually control a car using your eyes. So you like look at an icon on the screen and that says start the engine, and the engine starts. And then you look at an icon that goes forward and the car moves forward. It was obviously done in a very controlled environment, and this technology still has a long way to go before it's used in real world scenarios. But you know, I'm not suggesting that valets now start like parking their clients' cars using their eyes. But think about it again, and I mentioned WISP with people with disabilities. This eye tracking software now gives people with disabilities or limited hand or arm mobility an opportunity to be able to control real world devices using their phone. If you've ever seen people that are wheelchair bound, they generally have some form of smart technology that they can look at. It uses some form of eye tracking to type, maybe a mouthpiece to control the way the devices work, or specifically even their chair. So eye tracking is definitely an exciting space. I don't know how this will play out, But the demo that they did with the car was pretty cool. As I said, they started the engine, they made it move forward, they made it move back, and all just with the person's eyes. They never opened their mouth, they never said anything. That was pretty cool. Oppo. Now, Oppo has always been a well-priced Chinese phone. That's probably the easiest way of describing it. I did some work with TCL many years ago. Oppo was always a thorn in their side, came in cheaper, maybe not the same hardware or the same quality of hardware, but it was kind of always they were always bunched in the same category. The Oppo AirGlass 3 was demoed at Mobile World Congress. Now, I must be honest, I haven't really followed AirGlass or AirGlass 2. But what I did like about this and why I thought it was mentionable in a roundup of MWC 2024 is that unlike some of the previous forays into smart glasses, augmented reality glasses, where projectors are used or mini screens are built into the frames, Oppo hasn't done that. They've actually put the information in a translucent or semi-translucent lens inside the lens of the glasses. So if you're watching the show, you'll see you can actually still see through the glasses. And for someone like myself who wears glasses, I would now be able to have my prescription still, but in the middle of my lens, have these little lenses that can overlay information or augment information, which is what AR is supposed to do. So it'll be interesting to see, how these do evolve. They didn't look huge. They didn't look like you were wearing something really massive on your face. On that moment, we need to give a veil to, I can't remember her name, Asper, someone, that lady that wears the really big glasses, like a fashionista. She passed away this weekend at 102. But she would have rocked these glasses because they do sit a little bit bigger on your face than maybe a traditional pair of glasses, but they're also packing hardware. So they got batteries, they got wires, they got everything else inside it. What I like about it though is that you're not actually blocked out. They don't block out the light and kind of put you more into a VR world than an AR world, which is what the glasses are supposed to do. So definitely something I will follow. Maybe I'll reach out to the people here in Australia and Oppo if they're bringing them through, put them on a take them through their paces. I'm going to stay with translucency. Now, this one's a little bit of a hack. I don't know. So if you're not watching the show and you're listening, I'm talking about Lenovo's transparent laptop. So the screen is transparent. Now, I just go, wow. Again, I said at the beginning of the show, a lot of brands will showcase stuff that might actually never ever see the light of day. It's concepts. It's a way of them flexing and showing off what they can and can't do. I'm sure they're the first company to ever build a transparent or translucent. No, transparent is actually the right word. It's not translucent. It is transparent. They've built a transparent screen. Now, I go, why? Because, and if you look at the picture, just Google it. You kind of see right through it. Now, so if you're reading a document or trying to watch a movie or something like that that needs a dark background for you to see it, you're not going to see that. This is almost like augmented reality. If you had to sit behind your laptop and look through it, maybe stuff could appear on the screen that would like augment something in the background. I don't know what the thinking was. As I said, maybe it's just a flex to say, hey, we can do it. We saw at CES transparent TV screens. I think Samsung made one. I think LG made one. And I recall talking about it on the show going, why? Especially on a TV where black is so important, to make colors pop. So it is worth mentioning, but yeah, I don't know. It is. Right. Now, as I'm not doing Are You Game or tech news or everything usual things I said, this is just a quick summary show. I saved this one for last. And look, there were lots more things, right? Humane was there. That's a little AI pin. Have talked about that before. Tons of phones, which is what you expect. But like I said at the beginning of the show, there were tons of phones that are kind of the same phones. There were brands that we haven't heard of as well. There were well-priced phones, and there's specific markets for them. So a lot of foldables, a lot of affordable foldables, and it's also kind of a place where network operators would go to secure new handsets that they could then OEM and sell in their respective countries. So there were tons of phones. I just tried to find some of the things that like kind of stood out or maybe were a bit innovative. And I might have missed some as well. I wasn't there. I can say in the past when I've gone for the full 4 days and walked end to end, up and down, making sure that I did get to see everything. And I've seen some awesome stuff. But yeah, kind of my Are You Game segment for the week. Techno, spelled Tecno. They've made a couple of phones and things in the past. I have seen their stuff published, but they showed off a thing called the Pocket Go. Now, I was just talking a few minutes ago about Oppo's Air Glass where you can see through. Techno has done what TCL did, and I reviewed those a while ago with their next glass. They've made a pair of glasses that you can't see through. So picture them as glasses that you put in your head, but you can't see through them. Instead of that, there's screens. What's super cool is it comes with a remote control, like a console looking remote control. So think Xbox or PlayStation. And now instead of buying a Steam Deck or the Asus Ally that I reviewed a few weeks or months ago, whatever it was, and having a mobile gaming environment, you now have the screens on your face and you got the control in your hand. Now that does a few things. One, it's pretty cool. You've got the game and it's there and it's in your eyes. They do have adjusters for people like myself that wear glasses, so the lenses do adjust. So that they have thought of that as well, which is awesome because you wouldn't be able to wear glasses under their glasses. But now you're just sitting holding a remote control and playing. It's far more portable. It's probably more comfortable than holding one of the Steam Decks or Asus ROG Allies. I definitely would like to see this like upfront and personal. Give it a whirl. It's running Windows, so it plays games from your Epic account. Be very interesting to see what the processor capability is. And apparently, they do have a little mini Windows machine that will connect to these glasses as well. So you'd be able to use them as a work. So in other words, your screen and a work computer, or using the console, turn it into a gaming device. The only problem that I have with that is I kind of know my way around a keyboard. But I don't know, like I can't type without looking. I kind of still have to look down. So if you're wearing lenses to work, and this would be an argument for the Apple Vision Pro and any other wearable that's coming out, how do you see the keyboard? Like if the keyboard's not part of the screen, how do you actually see the keyboard? So yeah, that's something I'm still not 100% sure on how that's going to work. And that kind of brings us to, well, that takes us to the end of the show. As I said, just a quick update on MWC. I always say this. I said this about CS. I say this about all the big brands when they launch products. Watch the keynotes. Like if you're into technology and you enjoy the stuff, watch the keynotes. They tell you all about the cool tech. They tell you why they built some of the stuff. Well, not all of them. Some of them, like I would have told you and shared with you if I had heard. But yeah, so that kind of takes us to the end of that. So I'm going to say it next year. I'm going to Mobile World Congress. Let's see what happens next year. Next year, I'm going to CES. Alon, if you're listening, we're going to CES next year. I think we said that this year as well, but we are going. So, yeah, that basically takes us to the end of the show. So until next time, keep your screens clean and your knobs shiny.